I never imagined a single phone call could shatter the foundation of my life. It was a Thursday evening, normal, boring, peaceful. The kids were upstairs finishing homework, and I was loading the dishwasher when my buddy Ethan called. He sounded off, nervous, hesitant. "Mark, I don't know how to say this, but you need to know what happened last weekend." My stomach dropped. Beth had gone on a girls' getaway with Lisa Parker. I trusted her. I never had a reason not to. But Ethan wasn't the type to stir drama unless it was serious. "There was a party," he said slowly. "A swapping party. Beth was there. With Brian." Silence. My ears rang. My heart pounded in my chest like a drum. "Swapping party? What the hell are you talking about?" I asked. Ethan sighed. "Lisa and Joe have been hosting these private gatherings. Couples swap partners for the night. Your wife didn't just attend, Mark. She participated." I hung up without saying another word. My world had just tilted sideways. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I sat on the couch in the dark, my mind racing through every moment, every lie disguised as casual smiles or late-night texts. I watched the clock tick past 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3, until Beth finally walked in the door, humming like nothing had happened. "Hey, babe," she said, kicking off her heels. "You're still up?" I didn't answer right away. I just stared at her. I think I wanted to give her one last chance. One moment to come clean. But she didn't flinch. Didn't blink. She just looked at me like I was the one acting strange. "Was it fun?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. Her brows furrowed. "What?" "The party. With Lisa and Joe. With Brian. That was it." Her eyes, those damn eyes, flickered for just a second. The way someone's face changes when they realize the mask's slipping. She laughed. Actually laughed. "Mark, is that what this is about? You seriously believe whatever nonsense Ethan told you?" "Don't insult me," I said, rising from the couch. My hands were shaking, not with rage, but with the kind of heartbreak that makes you feel physically ill. "Just tell me the truth." Beth crossed her arms and leaned against the kitchen island. "Okay, fine. Yes, I went. And yes, I was with Brian. But it was just one night, Mark. It didn't mean anything. It's just fun. Everyone's doing it." I stepped back like she had slapped me. "Everyone's doing it." I repeated, stunned. "We have 2 kids upstairs. You're my wife." She scoffed. "Don't be dramatic. It's just sex. You're acting like I murdered someone." That was when I realized something horrifying. She didn't think she did anything wrong. She wasn't sorry. Not even close. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just walked past her, went upstairs, kissed both of our sleeping kids goodnight, and started packing a bag. And that's when she finally asked, "Where are you going?" "To a place where the word marriage still means something." I stayed at Ethan's place that night. He didn't ask questions, just handed me a beer and a spare blanket and let me sit in silence. I was numb, floating in a fog of disbelief. The next morning, I called Beth. I asked her to meet me at a coffee shop near our house, neutral ground. I needed to look her in the eyes again, needed to confirm that what I saw last night wasn't just some twisted nightmare. She showed up 20 minutes late, wearing sunglasses and a look of mild annoyance, like I was inconveniencing her. "I don't understand what you want from me, Mark," she said as soon as she sat down. "You're blowing this out of proportion." I stared at her. "I want you to acknowledge what you did. I want you to say you understand how badly you've hurt me, hurt our family." She leaned back, arms crossed. "I'm not going to apologize for exploring my sexuality. That's your issue, not mine." I clenched my jaw. "Then here it is, Beth. I'm giving you a choice. You walk away from this madness. You cut ties with the Parkers, with Brian, with this entire, whatever it is. We go to therapy. We fight for this family. Or you stay in that world, and our marriage ends." Today. For a moment, there was silence. Her jaw worked like she was chewing on a thought too large to swallow. Then she smiled. No remorse, no softness. Just arrogance. "I think you're overreacting," she said. "And I think I'm going to stay at Lisa's tonight. Maybe take some time to clear my head." I felt something break in me. "Then we're done," I said, rising. "You just made your choice." She didn't chase me as I left. Didn't cry. Didn't ask me to reconsider. She just sipped her coffee and scrolled through her phone. And that was the moment I realized she was already gone. The walk back to Ethan's house felt like dragging my heart behind me on a chain. Every step was heavier than the last. I tried to rationalize it. I tried to find some version of events where this was just a mistake, just a lapse in judgment. But no matter how I twisted it, the truth stayed the same. Beth chose a night with another man over our marriage. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I lay on the couch staring at the ceiling while memories stabbed through my brain like broken glass. Our wedding, the birth of our daughter, the time we painted the nursery together and laughed until we cried. All of it felt like a lie now, or at the very least, a version of her that no longer existed. In the morning, I picked up the phone and called a lawyer. I didn't want to do this out of rage. I wanted clarity, strategy, protection. I wasn't going to let my kids get dragged into this mess because their mother couldn't control her impulses. The lawyer, a sharp and measured woman named Andrea Price, listened quietly as I laid it all out. She didn't flinch when I told her about the swinger party. She just nodded and said, "You're not the first client I've had walk in with a story like this, but you'll be one of the few who handles it smartly, if you stay calm." I agreed to begin filing. Joint custody, fair split, but I wanted safeguards. I didn't trust Beth's judgment anymore, especially if Lisa and Joe Parker were involved. Later that day, I went home to see the kids. Beth wasn't there. Good. I walked into our house like a stranger. Every photo, every corner now poisoned by betrayal. My daughter, Ellie, ran up to me and hugged my leg. "Daddy, where have you been?" I knelt down and held her close. "Daddy had to take care of something, sweetheart. But I'm here now." As I tucked both kids into bed that night, a dark resolve began to form. Beth didn't just betray me. She walked into something much worse, something toxic, hidden, dangerous. And I wasn't going to let her drag our kids down with her. It wasn't just about divorce anymore. It was about truth, exposure, and justice. I spent the next few days quietly gathering information. If I was going to expose the web of lies Beth was tangled in, I needed evidence, solid, undeniable proof. Not just for the courts, but for the people who still believed the Parkers were harmless fun. Ethan, bless him, became my silent partner in this. He had connections, knew a guy who had been to one of the Parker parties but left after things got too dark. His name was Trent, and he agreed to talk. We met in a diner on the outskirts of town where no one would recognize us. Trent was jittery, eyes darting around like he was afraid someone had followed him. "You have no idea what those people are really into," he said, leaning in. "It's not just partner swapping, man. It's manipulation, coercion. They record things." I saw hidden cameras in the bedroom. My stomach churned. He continued. "Lisa and Joe run the whole thing like a cult. New couples get pressured to loosen up, and the ones who resist get humiliated or blacklisted in their little social circle. Your wife, Beth? She was all in. Lisa loved her, called her a natural." I clenched my fists under the table. Trent handed me a flash drive. "There's a folder of messages, emails, some footage. Don't ask how I got it. Just use it wisely." Back at Ethan's, I plugged the drive into my laptop with shaking hands. There they were. Messages between Beth and Lisa. Flirtations with Brian. References to the parties, to initiation nights, to what sounded like secret recordings. And then video files. One of them showed a blurry but unmistakable shot of Beth in our bedroom with Brian. Our bedroom. I slammed the laptop shut. I felt sick. But I also felt something else rising in me. Something stronger than rage, colder than grief. Focus. I would not just divorce her. I would end the charade these people built. If Beth wanted to play games with our lives, she was about to learn what it felt like to lose everything. I waited until the kids were at school before I went back to the house. Beth was home, curled up on the couch with a glass of wine in her hand, watching some trashy reality show like nothing in the world was broken. She looked up, annoyed. "Didn't expect you to just barge in." "I live here too," I replied coldly. "At least for now." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, let me guess. You've talked to another one of your judgmental friends? Are we doing the whole how dare you thing again?" "No," I said, setting the laptop on the coffee table and opening the lid. "We're doing the truth thing." I hit play. The footage rolled in silence, grainy but clear enough. Her in our bed. Brian's voice. Laughter. Moans. Beth froze. Her wine glass tilted, spilling red across the cushions, but she didn't even notice. "What the hell is this?" she whispered. "Evidence," I said. "You didn't just betray me, Beth. You did it in the place where our kids sleep. You let these people drag you into something twisted, and you called it fun." She tried to speak, to stammer something about not knowing, about it being just a mistake. But I'd heard enough. I stood tall, arms crossed. "I've already filed. The papers are coming. I'm not just divorcing you. I'm making sure everyone involved in these parties is exposed. You can't poison people's lives and hide behind consent when there's manipulation and recordings involved." Beth's face shifted from fear to fury. "You're overreacting. You're trying to destroy me. No, Beth, I said calmly. You did that to yourself. She lunged forward to shut the laptop, but I caught her wrist. Don't touch anything. Are you seriously going to drag this into court? She spat. Do you want to embarrass our family? No, I said. But I will. If that's what it takes to protect my kids, and maybe save some other idiot husband from walking into this same nightmare. For the first time, Beth looked small. Not sexy. Not powerful. Just broken. And I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel revenge. I just felt done. And with that, I left. After the confrontation, I moved back in with Ethan full-time. I didn't tell the kids the full story, just that Mom and Dad needed some space, and things might look different soon. They were too young to understand the depth of betrayal, and I refused to make them pawns in this war. Andrea, my lawyer, worked fast. We filed for divorce citing irreconcilable differences, but behind the scenes, she was helping me build a case to argue Beth was exposing our children to an unhealthy environment. The evidence from the flash drive? It was damning. She said, this isn't just about infidelity. This is about recklessness, exploitation, and possibly criminal behavior. I gave her everything, screenshots, emails, transcripts, even notes from Trent detailing what he had seen at those parties. And Andrea began preparing for war. Meanwhile, I reached out to a friend from college who now worked for a small, independent newspaper. Her name was Kayla. She had a reputation for digging up local scandals and exposing corruption with a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. I didn't want revenge porn. I wanted accountability. I sent her a redacted version of the materials. No names yet. Just enough to prove that there was a hidden community of upper-middle-class, respectable couples throwing coercive sex parties and potentially filming guests without full consent. Her response: oh my, I want the full story. On the record. I wasn't ready. Not yet. But I told her I'd think about it. Meanwhile, Beth's side wasn't staying quiet. She sent me texts ranging from pleading, don't ruin me, Mark. Let's talk, to venomous, if you go public with this, you'll regret it. She even tried using the kids, suggesting I was damaging their future by dragging this through the mud. But I held the line. Calm. Strategic. Focused. What broke me wasn't Beth. It was what I saw one day when I picked the kids up from school. Our daughter Ellie, barely 7, told me, Mommy said you're mad because she went to a grown-up party with her friends. I felt my throat tighten. She was already rewriting the story for them. Already twisting the narrative. That was the moment I decided. I wasn't just going to fight this in court. I was going to blow it wide open. Once I made up my mind, the wheels started turning fast. I met Kayla for coffee, in a small cafe outside town where no one would recognize us. I brought the full folder this time. Copies of the messages, the names, dates, addresses, and the video stills. Not the footage itself, that was locked in a vault with Andrea, in case things turned legal, but enough to paint a very ugly picture. Kayla's eyes widened as she flipped through everything. Jesus, Mark. This isn't just scandal. This is a damn iceberg. And I guarantee most of the town has no idea what's floating under the surface. She laid it out plainly. If I agreed to let her run the story, she'd protect my kids' identities, redact names until official sources verified involvement, and ensure I had final approval before anything went to print. But she also warned me, this would explode. Reputations would burn, including Beth's, including Lisa and Joe's, and maybe even others who weren't directly involved but knew and stayed quiet. I didn't hesitate. They built this circus behind closed doors, I said. Let the spotlight in. Meanwhile, Andrea prepared for Beth's legal retaliation. We were expecting some kind of counterattack, and sure enough, Beth served me with her own motion, seeking primary custody on the grounds that I was emotionally unstable and slandering her to mutual friends and the media. But she underestimated one thing. I never slandered her. I had proof. Receipts. Video. Eyewitnesses. And just as things started to heat up in court, Kayla published a teaser article. No names, but the details were enough to send whispers through our entire community. Words like swinger, non-consensual recording, and elite circles of secret parties danced across every PTA meeting, church hallway, and gym locker room. By the end of the week, half the town was buzzing. Parents whispered at soccer games. Teachers started watching kids from those families more closely. Some people outright denied the story. Others looked scared. Beth texted me a single line that night. You're destroying lives. I replied, you destroyed ours. I went to sleep knowing the storm I'd summoned was only just beginning. But for the first time since this all began, I finally slept through the night. By the end of the following week, Kayla's full article went live. Front page. Bold headline. No names, yet, but enough details to set the entire town ablaze. Behind closed doors, the secret network of swinger parties among suburban elites. She had quotes from anonymous sources, evidence of secret gatherings, hints of recorded encounters without proper consent. She even mentioned a rising custody battle involving one of the participants. That was me. She didn't have to say it. The fallout was instant. My phone blew up. Old friends, distant relatives, even my boss called to ask if the article was about Beth. Some asked if it was about me, but I kept quiet. Let the story do the work. Lisa and Joe Parker panicked. They issued a vague social media statement about unwarranted attacks on their privacy and consenting adults being unfairly judged. Comments exploded with speculation. Within 48 hours, two couples filed police reports about being secretly recorded at the Parkers' home. Another woman, anonymously quoted in Kayla's article, revealed she'd been pressured to drink excessively before agreeing to things she never wanted. Then came the backlash. Parents threatened to pull their kids from schools where the Parker kids went. Local clubs quietly reviewed memberships. The Homeowners Association sent out a ridiculous newsletter begging residents not to let baseless rumors affect our unity. But the damage was done. Beth, who had once thrived on her curated suburban image, wine nights, charity boards, yoga retreats, suddenly found herself uninvited, unwelcome, and unspoken for. She sent me another text. "You humiliated me. You're evil." I didn't respond, because while Beth was worried about her image, I was focused on the court hearing scheduled for the next week, the one where custody would be decided. I brought every shred of evidence Andrea advised me to use. Messages, witness statements, proof of the environment Beth had exposed our kids to, an environment she hadn't even tried to shield them from. Beth came with a tired lawyer, a forced smile, and a bruised ego. I came with the truth. And that day, for the first time in months, I felt like I had the upper hand. The courthouse was colder than I remembered. I sat at the plaintiff's table, my hands clasped tightly in front of me, trying to ignore the pounding in my chest. Across the room, Beth looked like a stranger, impeccably dressed, lips pursed, her usual charm worn like armor. But her eyes, they were tired. She wasn't in control anymore, and she knew it. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes and a zero-tolerance attitude, called us to order. Then came the testimonies. Andrea was masterful, calm, calculated. She presented everything like puzzle pieces sliding perfectly into place. First, the messages between Beth and Lisa. Casual mentions of the parties, of fun nights, of things best kept between us. Then the video stills. We didn't show the footage, thank God, but the context was clear enough. Our children's home had become a venue for betrayal. We included a statement from Trent, the witness who confirmed cameras had been hidden at the Parkers' parties. We didn't argue that Beth was a bad mother. We argued that she had shown poor judgment, recklessness, and a clear willingness to expose our kids to a morally ambiguous lifestyle without consideration for their emotional safety. Then Beth's lawyer stood up and tried to paint me as vindictive, that I was smearing her name publicly, that the article had been my doing, an act of personal revenge dressed up as concern. I didn't deny my involvement. I looked the judge dead in the eye and said, yes, I helped expose it. Because someone had to. Beth was called to the stand. Her voice trembled at first, but she tried to regain her composure. I never put our children in danger. They were never present. They don't even know what happened. And yet, Andrea replied during cross-examination, your daughter mentioned a grown-up party to her father. She may not know the details now, but what about next year? Or in 5 years, when this resurfaces again, as things like this always do? Beth's silence spoke louder than words. By the end of the day, the judge didn't issue a full ruling. She wanted a child custody evaluator to interview both children and observe our separate households. But her tone was clear. She wasn't impressed by Beth's moral compass. When we stepped outside, Beth tried to talk to me. Mark, I didn't mean for this to spiral. You've ruined so much. I didn't stop walking. I'm not the one who lit the match. I just refused to burn with you. That night, I tucked Ellie and our son Jacob into bed. We read stories, brushed teeth, laughed like we used to. And when I turned off the light, Ellie whispered, I like it when it's just us sometimes, Daddy. I closed the door quietly behind me and leaned against the wall, breathing in the peace I had fought so hard to rebuild. The war wasn't over, but I was winning. As my personal life moved through the slow machinery of court, The rest of the town continued devouring the fallout of Kayla's article. And right at the center of the chaos, Lisa and Joe Parker. The week after the custody hearing, more people came forward, some quietly through Kayla, others straight to the police. A couple who had attended a trial night at the Parkers' house confessed they were pressured into swapping partners after being plied with alcohol. Another man admitted he was secretly recorded and only found out because his wife stumbled upon a file on Joe Parker's cloud drive. It escalated quickly from scandal to legal action. The police opened a formal investigation into the Parkers for unlawful surveillance, coercion, and potential distribution of intimate recordings without consent. Subpoenas were issued. Devices were seized. Their clean-cut image shattered overnight. Their kids were pulled from school. For safety, Lisa claimed, but we all knew it was shame. Joe's business partners began to drop him like a grenade with the pin pulled. Lisa deleted all her social media accounts and was last seen storming out of a yoga studio after someone called her a predator under their breath. Beth tried to keep her distance from them after the article, but her name still came up in whispers. Mothers at school events kept their circles tight. Beth was no longer invited to brunches or volunteer committees. Her reputation, once a gleaming social badge, had rusted beyond repair. Meanwhile, Kayla contacted me again. She was preparing a follow-up story, this time with confirmed identities, court filings, and official statements from law enforcement. She offered me a quote spot. Something simple. Something true. I sent her this. I thought I knew my marriage. I thought I knew my neighbors. I didn't. But I'm not staying silent while others get hurt for the sake of secrets and appearances. The next morning, I found myself on the front page again, this time with my name. Not as a victim, not as a bitter ex-husband, but as the man who pulled the curtain back. I wasn't proud. I wasn't gloating. But I felt clean. For the first time in years, I felt honest. Even if the truth came wrapped in ash. 3 weeks later, we were back in court. The custody evaluator had finished her work. She'd interviewed Beth, me, the kids. She'd spent time observing both households. She'd seen the stability, the routines, the emotional atmosphere. And she'd reviewed all the background information, including the evidence of Beth's involvement with the Parkers and the media storm that followed. I sat on one side of the courtroom in a dark suit, palms sweating against my thighs. Beth sat on the other, visibly anxious. No amount of makeup could mask the exhaustion written across her face. Her lawyer whispered something to her, but she barely nodded. The judge entered, her expression unreadable. This was not a typical custody evaluation, she began, looking between us. I've reviewed the report and find both parents to be loving. However, one parent showed a significant lapse in judgment, one that has had social, legal, and potentially psychological consequences. My heart pounded. I stared down at the table, afraid to hope. I am awarding primary physical custody to the father, Mr. Mark Bennett, she continued. Joint legal custody will remain, but the children's residence shall be with their father. Ms. Bennett will have scheduled visitation. Beth gasped. Her lawyer stood up to object, but the judge raised a hand. My decision is final. Ms. Bennett's actions, while not criminal in this court's determination, reflect instability and a disregard for the potential impact on her children's emotional development. That cannot be ignored. I closed my eyes for a moment. Victory didn't feel like fireworks. It felt like a quiet exhale after holding my breath underwater for too long. Outside the courtroom, Beth chased me down. You've taken everything from me, she hissed. The kids, my reputation, my life. No, Beth, I said softly. You took that from yourself. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences. She looked at me like she didn't recognize the man standing before her. And maybe she didn't. The man she married would have forgiven her. But that man died the night she laughed off her betrayal like it was a joke. And I wasn't him anymore. The house felt different when I moved back in with the kids. Quiet, yes, but not hollow. Just peaceful. I'd repainted the bedroom, replaced the mattress, and boxed up everything that carried the scent of that other life. I wasn't running from the past. I was scrubbing it out, one drawer at a time. Ellie and Jacob adjusted faster than I expected. Kids are resilient like that, especially when they can sense stability. I kept routines tight. Breakfast at 7, school runs, bedtime stories. And therapy. We all started therapy together. I didn't want them to bottle up questions or pain they couldn't process. Beth still saw them on weekends. I made sure the transitions were smooth. I never spoke badly about her in front of them, because as much as she hurt me, I refused to pass that damage down to our kids. Meanwhile, the town was still reeling. The Parkers were under investigation and had sold their house abruptly. Moving out of state, the neighbors whispered. Other couples quietly distanced themselves, pretending they never knew what was going on. Cowards. Kayla's second article had gone viral. National outlets picked it up. The fallout stretched far beyond our zip code. Some of the names were redacted, but others weren't. I received emails from strangers, some thanking me, some sharing eerily similar stories of hidden suburban circles and coercive so-called lifestyle groups. It was bigger than I thought, and darker, but I was done being part of it. I started working out again, took the kids on weekend hikes, dusted off the old guitar in the garage. Slowly, life didn't feel like survival anymore. It felt like living. And one night, while tucking Jacob in, he looked at me and said, "Daddy, you're happy now, huh?" I smiled. "Yeah, buddy, I think I am." It wasn't perfect. Some nights I still woke up from dreams where everything had gone differently, where Beth never betrayed me, where we were still a family. But even in those dreams, something always felt off. Because deep down, I knew our marriage had been dying long before the party. I just didn't want to admit it. Not until the fire lit everything up and showed me what was real underneath the ashes. A full year has passed since the night I found out what Beth had done. 12 months of legal battles, public fallout, quiet tears behind closed doors, and moments of peace I never thought I'd feel again. I've moved forward, not just physically, but emotionally. I bought a smaller house on the edge of town, with a garden where the kids and I planted tomatoes this spring. It's not fancy, but it's ours. Untainted. Beth still has her visitation rights. She's less angry now, more quiet. Resigned, maybe. Sometimes she tries to make small talk when we exchange the kids, but I keep it polite and distant. She's still in denial about the choices she made and the ripple effects they left behind. The Parkers? Gone. Vanished like ghosts. Rumors swirl, lawsuits pending, videos leaked, more victims stepping forward. But I've turned away from that now. I did my part. I exposed what needed to be seen. I protected my children. And in doing so, I rediscovered myself. One night, I sat on the porch with Ellie while she looked up at the stars. She asked me, "Do you miss Mommy?" I didn't lie. I said, "I miss who I thought she was, but I'm really glad I get to be here with you." She smiled and leaned her head on my shoulder. That moment, it healed something in me. The moral of this story? Never let someone's version of normal make you doubt your values. Love is not supposed to be secretive, transactional, or conditional. It's not a playground for people who treat loyalty like an outdated concept. Marriage isn't a thrill ride, it's a bond. And when one person breaks it for selfish reasons, the other has every right to walk away without shame. I was betrayed. I was humiliated. But I chose to rise. And that made all the difference. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever been through something similar, stay strong. You're not alone. And if this story moved you, hit that like button, subscribe for more real-life stories, and drop a comment below. You never know, your story might be the next one someone needs to hear.